There are moments in life when everything feels ordinary on the surface, yet something deeper is shifting beneath your feet. You may not have words for it. You may not even fully understand it. But you feel it. A pattern forming. A pressure building. A quiet whisper asking you to pause. This is not random. This is not coincidence. Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences. This message may bring clarity. Open and listen before moving ahead. These words are not casual. They are precise. Because what you are living through right now is not just a season. It is instruction. Think about the past few weeks. The conversations that unsettled you. The delays that frustrated you. The doors that seemed to open halfway and then close again. The sudden realizations. The unexpected emotions. None of it has been meaningless. When heaven wants to teach something critical, it does not always send lightning or loud announcements. Sometimes it allows experiences to repeat until awareness awakens. And that awakening is happening now. You may have been asking, why does this keep happening? Or why do I feel like I am circling the same lesson? That question alone is proof that something is forming. Lessons do not appear fully written. They develop. They take shape through friction, through misunderstanding, through moments that challenge your assumptions. And if you rush ahead without recognizing the formation, you risk repeating what was designed to refine you. Archangel Michael's presence in this message is not about fear. It is about protection through awareness. There is a difference between moving forward in faith and moving forward blindly. Right now, the spiritual atmosphere around you is asking for discernment. It is asking you to look again at what you thought you already understood. Because clarity is not always about new information. Sometimes it is about seeing old experiences with new eyes. There is urgency here. Not panic, but urgency. Because decisions made without clarity can entangle you in cycles that were meant to end. When you ignore the lesson forming through recent experiences, you delay your own breakthrough. You stretch out a chapter that was ready to close. And heaven, in its mercy, does not want you to walk into the next season carrying confusion from the last one. This is why you are feeling that internal nudge, that sense that you should slow down, that awareness that something deeper is being revealed. It may feel uncomfortable. It may feel inconvenient. But discomfort is often the birthplace of understanding. When patterns repeat, they are not punishing you. They are positioning you. They are highlighting areas that require attention before elevation can safely occur. Imagine building a house on a foundation with hidden cracks. You can decorate it. You can furnish it. You can even celebrate inside it. But if the foundation is unstable, eventually everything above it will feel the strain. Recent experiences have exposed small cracks, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. And before you move ahead, those cracks must be understood. There is something rare about this moment. Most people rush through their lessons. They numb the discomfort. They distract themselves from reflection. They move forward just to escape the tension. But you are being invited into something different. You are being invited into awareness. Awareness is power. Awareness is protection. Awareness is the bridge between confusion and confidence. Archangel Michael brings awareness not to control your path, but to illuminate it. When clarity arrives, it does not always shout. It settles into your spirit like a steady light. It helps you connect the dots between what hurt you and what helped you grow. It reveals why certain relationships shifted, why certain plans stalled, why certain emotions surfaced unexpectedly. Everything had been speaking. The question is, Have you been listening? This message may bring clarity. Open and listen before moving ahead. That phrase carries weight. Open your heart. Open your understanding. Open your willingness to see what you previously dismissed. Because what you are about to recognize could change the direction of your next decision. And your next decision holds more influence than you realize. You stand at a quiet turning point. It does not look dramatic. It may not feel monumental. But spiritually, it is significant. The forming lesson is like a key. Without it, certain doors will not unlock the way they are meant to. With it, your steps become steadier. Your discernment sharpens. Your peace deepens. This is not about dwelling in the past. It is about extracting wisdom from it. It is about understanding that recent experiences were not random obstacles. They were instructors. And instructors speak until the student understands. If you sense that this message is reaching directly into your current situation, that is not accidental. It means you are ready to see what was previously hidden. Before you move ahead, pause. Before you commit, reflect. Before you assume, ask. Because clarity now prevents regret later. And the lesson forming through your recent experiences is not meant to burden you. It is meant to prepare you. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are being refined. And as this awareness settles into you, you will begin to recognize that what felt confusing was actually constructing something powerful within you. The next part of this message will begin uncovering the pattern you almost missed, and when you see it, everything will start to make sense. There is a pattern woven through your recent experiences, and it has been quietly repeating itself while you were focused on surviving the moment. You may have thought each situation was separate. A difficult conversation here, a delayed opportunity there, an unexpected emotional reaction that seemed to come out of nowhere. But when you step back and look carefully, you begin to see the thread that ties them all together. Archangel Michael is bringing awareness not just to isolated events, but to a design forming across time. And once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Have you noticed how the same type of challenge keeps appearing in different forms? Perhaps it is an issue of trust, or boundaries, or patience. Maybe it is the struggle to speak up when something feels wrong. The faces may change. The environments may shift. But the core lesson remains consistent. Heaven does not repeat lessons to frustrate you. It repeats them to strengthen you. What feels like a cycle is often a classroom. The reason this pattern hath been subtle is because it did not arrive dramatically. It slipped into ordinary moments. It hid inside daily routines. You may have dismissed it as bad luck or timing. But spiritually, repetition is rarely random. When something reappears, it carries a message. When an emotion resurfaces strongly, it signals unfinished understanding. When a door closes in a way that mirrors a previous closure, it is not coincidence. It is communication. Archangel Michael brings awareness to this forming lesson because the pattern is reaching completion. Think of it like a puzzle. Each recent experience with a piece. Alone, each piece seemed confusing. But together, they create a clear image. And that image is showing you something about yourself. Something about your reactions. Something about where you are being called to grow before stepping into what is next. Sometimes the pattern reveals where you have been underestimating your worth. Sometimes it exposes where you have tolerated less than you deserve. Other times, it highlights fear that has been quietly influencing your decisions. The repetition is not there to condemn you. It is there to liberate you. Because once you recognize the pattern, you gain authority over it. This is the moment where awareness shifts from discomfort to empowerment. You are no longer asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question changes everything. It transforms frustration into focus. It turns confusion into clarity. And it positions you to respond differently the next time a similar situation appears. Archangel Michael's role in this awareness is protective. Protection does not always mean removing obstacles. Sometimes it means revealing your purpose. If you move ahead without recognizing the pattern, you risk carrying the same response into a new environment. A new season cannot produce different results if old reactions remain unexamined. That is why this clarity matters now. You might even feel a quiet conviction rising within you as you listen. A realization that you have seen this before. That certain words have triggered you in similar ways. That certain disappointments have touched the same wound. That certain delays have stirred the same impatience. This is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up gently, but firmly. Patterns lose their power when exposed. Once you identify them, you can choose differently. You can pause instead of reacting. You can set boundaries instead of staying silent. You can trust divine timing instead of forcing outcomes. The forming lesson is not about perfection. It is about progression. And progression requires awareness. If this message is resonating deeply with you, take a moment right now to acknowledge it. Like this video so this message can reach others who are standing at the same hidden crossroads. Share it with someone who has been wondering why their experiences feel repetitive. Comment below what pattern you are beginning to see in your own life. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel and become part of a community that seeks clarity before moving ahead. When you engage, you are not just supporting content. You are amplifying awareness for souls who desperately need it. The pattern you almost missed is not here to trap you. It is here to prepare you. Each repeated experience was sharpening your discernment. Each delay was strengthening your patience. Each emotional trigger was pointing toward healing that could no longer be postponed. When you see this clearly, regret fades. Instead of wishing things had been different, you begin to appreciate how precisely they were arranged. There is a powerful shift happening inside you right now. A shift from confusion to comprehension. Comprehension to reflection. Conversation to formation. And as this understanding deepens, you will start noticing something remarkable. The pattern is no longer controlling you. You are learning from it. Archangel Michael brings awareness at this exact moment because you are closer to breakthrough than you realize. The repetition was never meant to define your future. It was meant to refine your character. And now that you are seeing the thread woven through your recent experiences, you are no longer walking blindly. The next part will uncover what had been forming beneath the surface all along, the lesson itself, and why it hath been developing quietly until now. Beneath the visible events of your recent experiences, something deeper has been taking shape. While you were focusing on outcomes, heaven was focusing on transformation. While you were asking for answers, a lesson was quietly forming within you. Archangel Michael brings awareness to this hidden process, because what is happening beneath the surface matters more than what is happening around you. You have been measuring progress by external change, but the true shift has been internal. Lessons that carry destiny weight rarely arrive fully revealed. They begin as subtle discomfort, a nudge that something is not aligned, a repeated emotion that refuses to stay buried, a situation that stretches your patience beyond what feels comfortable. At first, you may resist it. You may question why it feels so intense. But intensity is often the sign that refinement is underway. Gold is not purified in cold water. It is refined in fire. The lesson forming beneath the surface is about awareness of self, awareness of patterns, and awareness of divine timing. It is about recognizing where you have been operating from habit instead of discernment. It is about understanding that not every open door is an invitation, and not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes the closed door is protection. Sometimes the delay is alignment. Sometimes the discomfort is redirection. You may have felt pressure recently, pressure to decide quickly, to respond immediately, to move ahead without fully understanding why certain things unsettled you. That pressure is not always from heaven. Often, it is the residue of old patterns trying to maintain control. But this time, something is different. This time, you are being called to pause long enough to see the formation of the lesson before you step forward. What is that lesson? For some, it is learning to trust intuition that was previously ignored. For others, it is recognizing the importance of boundaries that were once compromised to keep peace. For many, it is the realization that growth requires letting go of familiar discomfort to embrace unfamiliar stability. The lesson is not identical for everyone, but its purpose is the same: elevation through awareness. You might notice that your reactions have started to change. Where you once would have reacted quickly, you now hesitate. Where you once would have chased approval, you now seek peace. Where you once would have forced outcomes, you now feel the need to wait. That is not weakness. That is maturity forming. That is discernment strengthening quietly beneath the surface. Archangel Michael's awareness in this moment is like a protective shield over your next step. Because once you understand the lesson forming, you cannot unknow it. It reshapes your choices. It filters your decisions. It stabilizes your direction. And this is why the lesson had to develop gradually. If it had been revealed too quickly, you might not have recognized its depth. But now, after walking through repetition and reflection, you are ready to receive clarity. There is also a truth you must hear. Resistance prolongs the process. When you resist acknowledging what needs to change, the lesson intensifies. Not as punishment, but as persistence. Heaven does not abandon what it intends to refine. The forming lesson will continue shaping circumstances until it is understood. But once embraced, it transforms from pressure into power. Some of you have felt an emotional heaviness recently, not because you are failing, but because you are shedding outdated responses. Growth can feel like loss before it feels like gain. You are losing the old way of thinking. You are losing the old reflex to react. You are losing the old narrative that kept you small. And in its place, a stronger awareness is emerging. Hold on. What is about to unfold next will reveal why this lesson had to form the way it did. The clarity ahead will connect everything you have been experiencing. You will be glad you allowed yourself to see this beneath the surface. Now, as this awareness settles into your spirit, participate in this prophetic act. Type "I receive the lesson" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 314 is now activated over your season of clarity. Let this declaration seal what is forming within you. This is not just information. It is activation. The moment you acknowledge the lesson, you step into alignment with it. And alignment brings peace. The awareness you are receiving right now is not only for you. It is for every soul who is searching for clarity in the middle of confusion. When you sow into this mission, you are helping light reach places where darkness has convinced people they are alone. Scripture declares, "Give, and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." This is not a distant promise. It is God speaking directly into your obedience in this very moment. When you release a super thanks, become a member, or give through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code flashing on your screen. You are planting seeds into fertile spiritual ground. I am inviting you now to become part of this river of revelation that is flowing to thousands. Do not miss the blessing of participating in what heaven is building here. As you give, may open heavens respond over your household, and may the same clarity you are receiving multiply back into your life. Step into this prophetic act and sow today. Timing is never random in the spiritual realm. When Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences, it is not simply because you are curious. It is because the moment demands clarity. There are seasons when heaven watches quietly as you grow through process. And then there are moments when intervention comes, not to interrupt your journey, but to sharpen it. This is one of those moments. You may wonder, why now? Why is this awareness surfacing at this specific point in your life? The answer lies in the proximity of your next step. You are closer to a transition than you realize. And transitions magnify whatever you carry into them. If you carry confusion, confusion expands. If you carry clarity, clarity accelerates. Archangel Michael is speaking now because what you decide next will echo longer than you think. Recent experiences were not isolated events. They were preparation. They were tests of discernment. They were mirrors reflecting back areas that required strengthening. But preparation without revelation can feel exhausting. That is why this message arrives now, to transform exhaustion into understanding. Once you understand the purpose behind what you endured, fatigue begins to lift. There is also a spiritual intensity surrounding moments of growth. Whenever you are about to move into greater responsibility, greater influence, or greater peace, there is often resistance. Not always visible resistance, but subtle opposition. Distractions increase. Doubts grow louder. Old temptations resurface. It can feel like everything is trying to pull your focus away from stillness. That is not coincidence. Awareness disrupts interference. Archangel Michael's presence represents divine protection and strategic clarity. Protection is not only about shielding you from harm. It is also about guarding you from missteps. Sometimes the greatest protection is insight before action. Imagine walking toward a path that appears smooth, only to discover it leads back into a cycle you just exited. Awareness prevents unnecessary detours. Right now, you are standing in a narrow window of opportunity, a space between realization and action. This space is sacred. It is the pause before movement, the inhale before the step. And many people miss it because they are uncomfortable with waiting. But waiting with awareness is different from waiting in confusion. This pause has purpose. You have likely sensed that something is shifting internally, a heightened sensitivity, and deeper evaluation of your motives, a stronger need for alignment rather than approval. These are not random emotional waves. They are indicators that you are outgrowing a previous version of yourself. And when growth reaches a certain point, guidance becomes more direct. Why is Archangel Michael speaking now? Because silence at this stage could cost you clarity. Because moving ahead without fully integrating the lesson could reopen what was meant to close. Because you prayed for wisdom, and wisdom often arrives as awareness rather than immediate answers. There is also a layer of spiritual responsibility attached to clarity. Once you see the pattern, once you understand the lesson, once you recognize the refinement, you cannot claim ignorance. Awareness elevates accountability, and accountability strengthens character. This is why the timing matters so deeply. Some of you have been on the verge of making a decision that feels urgent. Perhaps it is relational. Perhaps it is financial. Perhaps it is connected to your purpose or calling. The urgency may feel justified, but urgency is not always confirmation. Sometimes urgency is a test. The question is not, can I move forward? The question is, am I moving forward with full understanding? Archangel Michael is speaking now to steady your pace, not to stop your progress, but to ensure it is sustainable. Quick moves without clarity create fragile foundations. Slow, intentional steps with awareness create stability that lasts. The forming lesson from your recent experiences is not meant to delay you. It is meant to fortify you. There is another reason this message comes now, because breakthrough often disguises itself as tension first. Before clarity fully settles, confusion may intensify briefly. Before peace becomes steady, restlessness may attempt one last distraction. When you recognize this pattern, you stop interpreting tension as failure. Instead, you see it as a signal that alignment is near. You are not being warned because you are in danger. You are being guided because you are valuable. Your next step matters. Your direction matters. The seeds you plant now will shape the atmosphere of your upcoming season. And heaven does not want you planting unconsciously. This moment is an invitation to integrate everything you have learned, to connect your experiences with your responses, to acknowledge how far you have come, to choose differently where necessary. The awareness is not loud or forceful. It is steady, protective, clear. And as you allow this clarity to anchor within you, you will begin to feel something shift. The rush will soften. The anxiety will ease. The decision that once felt pressured will begin to reveal its true timing. That is how you know awareness is doing its work. Archangel Michael is speaking now because you are ready to hear, ready to understand, ready to step forward without repeating what was meant to refine you. This is not interruption. It is alignment. There is a reason your emotions have felt unusually intense lately. A reason small situations have carried heavier weight. A reason certain words lingered in your mind longer than they should have. What you interpreted as instability was actually exposure. Archangel Michael brings awareness not only to external patterns but to internal responses. Because sometimes the clearest sign that a lesson is forming is not what is happening around you. It is what is being stirred within you. Emotional confusion often feels like weakness. It feels like losing control. It feels like not being as steady as you thought you were. But in the spiritual sense, emotional disruption can signal awakening. When something inside you no longer agrees with something outside you, tension is created. That tension is not there to harm you. It is there to alert you. Think about the moments that unsettled you most. Were they truly about the surface issue? Or did they touch something deeper? An old wound, a past disappointment, a fear of being overlooked, a memory of not being heard. Recent experiences have pressed on areas that were previously hidden beneath routine and responsibility. And when hidden areas are touched, emotions rise quickly. This does not mean you are regressing. It means you are uncovering. Emotional clarity often arrives through emotional discomfort first. When a reaction feels disproportionate, it is usually revealing something that has been waiting for healing. Archangel Michael's awareness in this season is helping you distinguish between current reality and past residue. Not every strong emotion is about the present moment. Sometimes it is about what the present moment reminds you of. You may have questioned yourself recently, wondered why you felt more sensitive, why delays felt personal, why silence from someone carried more weight than it used to. But sensitivity is not always fragility. Sometimes it is refinement. When your discernment sharpens, you feel misalignment more quickly. What you once tolerated easily now unsettles you. What you once ignored now demands attention. Emotional confusion also arises when you are outgrowing environments or dynamics that once felt normal. Growth changes your internal standards. As you mature spiritually, you begin to crave peace more than validation. You begin to value alignment more than approval. And when you try to operate at an old level with new awareness, internal conflict develops. This is why recent experiences have felt like a mix of clarity and chaos. Part of you recognizes the lesson forming. Another part of you is still adjusting to what that recognition requires. Letting go of familiar reactions can feel disorienting. Choosing patience over impulse can feel unnatural at first. Setting boundaries where you once stayed silent can feel uncomfortable. But discomfort is not the same as error. In fact, the discomfort you feel may be the exact evidence that you are shifting correctly. Emotional confusion is often the bridge between old identity and new maturity. You are no longer who you were when certain patterns first began. And that realization creates temporary instability before it produces lasting peace. There is also the matter of expectation. You expected certain outcomes. You assumed certain efforts would lead to specific results. When reality diverged from expectation, frustration surfaced. But unmet expectations are not always failures. Sometimes they are redirections. Archangel Michael's awareness helps you reinterpret disappointment not as denial, but as divine adjustment. Consider how many times you have looked back on past confusion and later realized it was protection. At the time, it felt like loss. Later, it became clarity. What if the emotional turbulence you are experiencing now will one day feel the same? What if the heaviness was actually shielding you from a path that was not aligned with your growth? Another layer of this confusion may stem from fatigue. Repeated lessons can be tiring. When you feel like you have already learned something, and then it appears again in a different form, discouragement can creep in. But repetition does not mean failure. It means reinforcement. Sometimes heaven allows a concept to revisit your life until it becomes instinctive. You are being trained to respond differently, to choose differently, to see differently. And that retraining process can feel emotionally intense because it disrupts automatic habits. Habits are comfortable even when they are unhealthy. Breaking them requires awareness and effort. It is important that you do not judge yourself harshly during this phase. Self-criticism clouds clarity. Instead, observe your emotions with curiosity. Ask what they are teaching you. Ask what they are protecting you from. Ask what they are revealing about your evolving standards. Archangel Michael brings awareness so that you do not misinterpret growth as instability. You are not becoming weaker. You are becoming more conscious. You are not losing direction. You are recalibrating. Emotional confusion is often the sign that alignment is underway. As this understanding settles, you may begin to notice a subtle shift. The same situation that once triggered anxiety now invites reflection. The same delay that once sparked frustration now encourages patience. The same silence that once felt threatening now feels neutral. That is progress. That is the lesson integrating. The emotional storm was never meant to drown you. It was meant to wash away outdated responses. And as the waters settle, clarity becomes visible. You begin to trust your discernment again. You begin to feel steady where you once felt shaken. This is how the forming lesson moves from the surface into your foundation. Not by avoiding emotion, but by understanding it. Not by suppressing reaction, but by refining it. And as your emotional world stabilizes, you prepare for the crossroads that lies just ahead. There comes a moment after awareness settles and emotional confusion begins to clear, when you realize you are standing at a crossroad. It is not always dramatic. There may be no visible sign, no audible instruction, no sudden announcement. Yet internally, you know something is different. The forming lesson from your recent experiences has brought you to a decision point. Archangel Michael brings awareness now because this crossroad is subtle, but it is significant. A crossroad is not simply about choosing between two visible options. It is about choosing the mindset and posture you will carry forward. It is about deciding whether you will move ahead with the wisdom you have gained or repeat the reflexes you have outgrown. The path itself may look similar to previous ones. The faces involved may even resemble past dynamics. But you are not the same person you were before. And that changes everything. The temptation at a crossroad is to rush. After all the processing, all the reflection, all the emotional intensity, you may feel ready to move quickly just to feel momentum again. But urgency is not always alignment. Sometimes the greatest strength is restraint. Sometimes the most powerful action is a deliberate pause. Archangel Michael's presence in this moment is protective clarity. Protection here does not mean preventing you from choosing incorrectly by force. It means illuminating the consequences gently before you commit. You are being invited to ask deeper questions. Not just is this good, but is this aligned? Not just is this available, but is this appointed for this season? The crossroad before you may involve a relationship that is asking for redefinition. It may involve an opportunity that seems promising but requires compromise. It may involve stepping into a role that stretches your confidence. Whatever form it takes, the real decision is internal. Will you honor the lesson you have learned? You have already identified patterns. You have already felt the refinement. You have already recognized emotional triggers that once controlled you. Now comes the application. Wisdom that is not applied becomes forgotten knowledge, and forgotten knowledge leads to repeated cycle. This is why the crossroad feels heavier than usual. It carries awareness. Before, you may have acted impulsively because you did not fully see the pattern. Now you see it. Before, you may have justified certain behaviors because you lacked clarity. Now clarity is present. That makes this decision sacred. There is also a quiet fear that can serve as a crossroads. The fear of choosing wrongly. The fear of missing out. The fear of delaying something that feels promising. But fear should not be the voice that guides you. Awareness should. The lesson forming through recent experiences has equipped you with discernment. Trust it. Sometimes moving ahead means saying no where you once said yes. Sometimes it means waiting when everything in you wants to accelerate. Sometimes it means walking away from what is familiar to protect what is forming within you. Growth often requires courage disguised as stillness. You may notice that external voices have opinions about your next step. Advice may come from many directions. Some of it may be well-meaning. But not all guidance understands the internal transformation you have undergone. Only you, with divine awareness, can feel the difference between pressure and peace. The crossroad is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to mature you. Decisions made at this stage define the tone of your next season. If you move forward with integrity and alignment, the path stabilizes quickly. If you ignore what you have learned, instability returns. Consider how different your response options are now compared to months ago. You are more observant, more reflective, less reactive. That growth was not accidental. It was preparation for this exact intersection. Archangel Michael brings awareness so you do not underestimate this moment. Small decisions shape long outcomes. A single compromise can reopen a cycle. A single boundary can close one permanently. A single pause can prevent prolonged regret. A crossroad is also an invitation to trust divine timing. If something is meant for you, it will remain aligned even if you take time to evaluate. What is truly appointed will not dissolve because you chose wisdom over impulse. In fact, what is aligned will respect your discernment. There is power in knowing you have changed. The same situation that once felt irresistible may now feel negotiable. The same pressure that once overwhelmed you may now feel manageable. That is evidence of growth. As you stand here, you are not alone. The awareness you have received is guidance. The clarity you feel is protection. The hesitation you sense may be wisdom reminding you to evaluate fully before committing. Do not interpret this crossroad as a test designed for failure. See it as confirmation of maturity. You would not be here if you were not ready to choose differently. You would not feel the weight of this moment if it did not matter. The forming lesson has brought you to this point so that your next step is intentional, not accidental. And as you prepare to move, remember, forward is not always fast. Forward is faithful. Forward is aligned. Forward is aware. The next part will reveal the hidden strength that has been developing within you throughout this entire process. Strength you may not even recognize yet. While you were focused on surviving recent experiences, something powerful was forming within you. You may have thought you were simply enduring delays, navigating emotional confusion, or trying to make sense of repeated patterns. But beneath all of that, strength was being built quietly. Archangel Michael brings awareness not only to the lesson itself, but to the transformation that lesson has produced inside you. Because before you move ahead, you must recognize that you are not the same person who entered this season. Strength does not always feel like confidence while it is developing. Often, it feels like pressure. It feels like stretching beyond comfort. It feels like carrying questions without immediate answers. Yet every time you resisted the urge to react impulsively, strength increased. Every time you paused instead of forcing a decision, resilience deepened. Every time you reflected instead of blaming, maturity expanded. You may not have celebrated those moments. They may have felt small, even insignificant, but they were evidence of growth. The hidden strength you developed was not loud or dramatic. It was steady, layer by layer, response by response, choice by choice. You were becoming more anchored. Think about how you would have handled a similar situation a year ago. The speed of your reactions, the intensity of your emotions, the urgency to prove yourself or defend your position. Now compare that to how you have responded recently. Even if you stumbled at times, there was more awareness, more restraint, more consideration. A difference is strength. Archangel Michael's awareness is helping you see that the lesson forming through recent experiences was not only about identifying patterns. It was about building capacity to handle greater responsibility, capacity to discern between opportunity and distraction, capacity to remain steady when external circumstances fluctuate. Strength is often developed through repetition. When a lesson appears again, it is not always because you failed. Sometimes it is because your endurance is being fortified. Just as a muscle strengthens through repeated resistance, your discernment strengthens through repeated evaluation. What once exhausted you now challenges you in a way that builds stamina instead of despair. There is also a deeper kind of strength that has been forming: emotional sovereignty. You are learning that not every opinion deserves your reaction. Not every delay requires panic. Not every closed door defines your worth. That internal stability is powerful. It frees you from seeking constant external validation. You may not have noticed, but you have become less dependent on immediate reassurance. You are beginning to trust your inner alignment more than external applause. That shift is profound. It means your decisions are becoming rooted in conviction rather than convenience. The hidden strength you develop also includes courage. Courage to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. Courage to acknowledge where you needed growth. Courage to consider different responses than the ones you were accustomed to. Self-honesty is one of the most demanding forms of bravery, and you have exercised it. Even the emotional confusion you experienced contributed to this strength. It forced you to slow down. It forced you to examine your triggers. It forced you to separate present reality from past wounds. That kind of introspection builds depth, and depth creates stability. Archangel Michael brings awareness now so that you do not underestimate yourself at the crossroad before you. If you see yourself as fragile, you may hesitate unnecessarily. If you see yourself as unchanged, you may repeat old cycles. But if you recognize the strength that has formed, you will move forward with quiet confidence. Strength does not eliminate uncertainty entirely. It simply equips you to face uncertainty without losing balance. You may still feel questions arise about your next step. But now, instead of spiraling into doubt, you evaluate calmly. You observe. You wait. That composure is evidence that refinement has occurred. There is also protective strength forming around your boundaries. Where you once blurred lines to maintain harmony, you are now more conscious of preserving peace. You understand that saying no can be as powerful as saying yes. That awareness shields you from unnecessary entanglement. Perhaps the most important strength you have developed is patience with yourself. Growth is rarely immediate. It unfolds gradually. And instead of condemning yourself for not mastering everything instantly, you have begun to allow process. That grace toward yourself is maturity. As you prepare to move ahead, remember this: you are not stepping forward as the person who first encountered these challenges. You are stepping forward as someone refined by them. The pressure that once felt overwhelming has now become perspective. The repetition that once felt frustrating has now become training. Archangel Michael's awareness highlights this hidden strength so that you do not shrink at the moment of decision. You are capable of choosing wisely. You are capable of maintaining boundaries. You are capable of discerning alignment. The lesson forming through recent experiences did not weaken you. It fortified you. It sharpened your awareness. It strengthened your inner foundation. And as you move toward the warning within the clarity that lies ahead, carry this truth with you. You are stronger than you were before, even if the transformation happened quietly. Clarity is a gift, but it also carries responsibility. Now that awareness has surfaced, now that patterns have been revealed, now that strength has formed within you, there is a warning woven gently into this moment. Archangel Michael brings awareness not only to illuminate your path, but to caution you with love. Because clarity ignored can be more costly than confusion ever was. The warning is not dramatic. It is not meant to frighten you. It is steady and direct. Do not pretend you did not see what was shown to you. Do not minimize the lesson because it is inconvenient. Do not rush forward simply because standing still feels uncomfortable. When clarity comes, it draws a line between wisdom and willfulness. You have seen the patterns. You have felt the emotional triggers. You have recognized the areas that required strengthening. To move ahead without honoring that understanding would reopen doors that were meant to close. Cycles do not end automatically. They end when awareness produces different action. There is a subtle temptation that appears after clarity arrives. It whispers, maybe it was not that serious. Maybe you were overthinking. Maybe it will be different this time without any real change. That whisper is familiar because it has accompanied previous cycles. but now you recognize it, and recognition removes its power. The warning within the clarity is this: if you ignore what you have learned, repetition will intensify. Not because you are being punished, but because unresolved lessons seek completion. What you refuse to address consciously will reappear circumstantially. The difference is that each return may feel heavier. Archangel Michael's presence in this message is protective alignment. Protection is not just about shielding you from external harm. It is about preventing internal compromise. Compromise begins quietly. It starts when you justify small misalignments, when you silence your discernment to avoid discomfort, when you override your intuition to preserve familiarity. You have grown beyond certain environments, certain dynamics, certain reactions. But growth requires consistency. One moment of awareness does not automatically secure permanent transformation. It must be practiced, applied, honored repeatedly. This warning is especially important because you are approaching movement. Decisions will soon need to be made. Opportunities may present themselves. Conversations may require response. And in those moments, it will be easy to default to old reflexes if you are not intentional. Pause before responding. Evaluate before committing. Affect before reacting. These are not signs of fear. They are signs of wisdom. The forming lesson was not given so that you could admire it intellectually. It was given so that you could embody it practically. There's also a warning about external influences. As you shift, not everyone around you will understand your new boundaries or your slower pace. Some may pressure you to return to what is familiar. Others may interpret your discernment as distance. But not all discomfort from others is a signal to adjust yourself. Sometimes it is confirmation that you are changing. You may feel moments of loneliness when you choose alignment over approval. But loneliness in growth is temporary. Regret from ignoring clarity lasts longer. The warning within the clarity is a safeguard for your future peace. Consider how many times in the past you sensed something was not right but moved ahead anyway. Recall how that felt later. The frustration, the self-questioning, the realization that you had known better. This time is different because you are being reminded before the decision is finalized. Hold on. What you are about to recognize in the coming moments will determine whether this cycle closes permanently or quietly resets itself. The choice is subtle, but its impact is significant. You will be grateful you allowed this awareness to settle fully before stepping forward. Type "I choose wisdom" in the comments if you are ready to honor the clarity you have received. Blessing code 528 is now activated over your discernment and direction. Let this declaration mark the closing of old cycles. The warning is not a threat. It is a gift. It is heaven's way of saying you are too valuable to repeat what you have already outgrown. It is a reminder that your future deserves the application of your present understanding. As this warning settles into your spirit, hear this invitation as part of the same clarity. When you sow into this mission, you are helping others receive the very awareness that is protecting you right now. The word declares that when you cast your bread upon the waters, it returns after many days, multiplied and blessed. This is that moment. When you release a super thanks, step into membership, or give through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen, you are igniting a lamp that reaches souls standing at their own crossroads. I am asking you to respond prophetically, not casually. Do not delay obedience when heaven stirs your heart. As you give, may oil of wisdom overflow in your life, and may every seed you sow return as harvest in due season. Act now and seal this revelation with action. Now that clarity has come and the warning has been spoken, the question becomes practical. What should you actually do before moving ahead? Awareness without action fades. Understanding without implementation weakens. Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences, not just so you can reflect, but so you can respond with intention. The space you are in right now is sacred preparation. First, slow your pace deliberately. Not because you are afraid, but because you are wise. When clarity arrives, there is often a temptation to act immediately, as if quick movement proves obedience. But sometimes obedience looks like stillness. Give yourself space to let the lesson fully integrate. Sit with it. Revisit recent events in your mind without emotional charge. Ask yourself what they revealed about your boundaries, your values, your triggers, your growth. Second, seek internal confirmation before external commitment. Peace is a powerful indicator. Not excitement, not urgency, not pressure. Peace. When you imagine taking the next step, does your spirit settle or tighten? Do you feel steady or rushed? Divine alignment rarely screams. It stabilizes. If something feels forced, allow time to expose why. Third, clarify your motives. Be honest with yourself. Are you moving ahead to prove something? To escape discomfort? To gain validation? Or are you moving because alignment feels genuine and sustainable? The lesson forming through your recent experiences likely exposed areas where motives needed refining. Do not ignore that refinement now. Fourth, establish one boundary that reflects your growth. It does not need to be dramatic. It may simply be choosing not to respond immediately to messages that pressure you. It may be declining an invitation that conflicts with your priorities. It may be communicating your expectations clearly instead of assuming others understand them. Action solidifies awareness. Fifth, pray or reflect intentionally over your next decision. Even if you do not receive a sudden revelation, the act of inviting divine oversight over your choice strengthens your discernment. Archangel Michael's awareness is not about controlling you. It is about guiding you. Invite that guidance consciously. There is also something powerful about writing down what you have learned. When lessons remain abstract, they are easier to forget. When you articulate them clearly, they become anchors. Write down the pattern you recognized. Write down the emotional trigger you identified. Write down the boundary you intend to maintain. These words become reminders when pressure tries to cloud clarity. As you prepare to move ahead, remember that delay is not denial. If alignment is true, it will remain steady even after reflection. What fades under evaluation was never stable to begin with. Trust that what is meant for your next season can withstand your discernment. If this message is helping you approach your next step with wisdom, engage with it actively. Like this video so more people standing at their own crossroads can receive clarity before moving ahead. Share it with someone who is on the verge of making a decision they may need to reconsider. Comment below one practical step you are committing to before taking action. And if you have not yet subscribed, join this growing community where awareness is valued over impulse and discernment over pressure. Your engagement helps amplify this message of alignment to souls who are quietly searching for it. There is one more critical practice before moving ahead. Release attachment to a specific outcome. Clarity is not about controlling results. It is about aligning intentions. When you release the need to guarantee success, you create room for divine orchestration. Attachment can blur discernment because it makes you interpret every sign as confirmation. Detachment restores objectivity. Also, prepare yourself for resistance. When you choose to act from awareness instead of habit, old patterns may attempt one final appeal. Doubt may whisper that you are overcomplicating things. Familiar comforts may seem more attractive than disciplined growth, but recognize this as transition tension. It is temporary. You have already done the difficult work of reflection, and now you are applying it. This is where transformation becomes visible. The crossroad you stand at does not require perfection. It requires sincerity. It requires willingness to choose differently where necessary. It requires courage to honor what you know. And as you take these steps, slowing down, seeking peace, clarifying motives, establishing boundaries, releasing attachment, you will notice something remarkable. Confidence will begin to replace hesitation. Not loud confidence, but quiet assurance. The kind that does not need external validation because it is rooted in internal alignment. You are not being asked to freeze. You are being asked to move consciously. There is a difference. Conscious movement creates sustainable progress. Impulsive movement creates temporary momentum followed by correction. The lesson forming through your recent experiences has prepared you for this moment. Now your response will determine whether the next season begins with stability or with another cycle. In the next part, you will see what happens when understanding fully integrates, how clarity transforms not just your decision, but your direction entirely. There is a distinct shift that happens when a lesson is no longer resisted but embraced. It is subtle at first, almost unnoticeable, like the first light before sunrise. But once it begins, it changes everything. Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences, not simply so you can analyze it, but so you can cross into a new level of understanding. And when understanding settles deeply, direction transforms naturally. The shift begins internally. Where there was once tension, there is steadiness. Where confusion once circled your thoughts, there is quiet order. You may still face decisions. You may still encounter uncertainty. But your internal posture is different. You are no longer reacting from old wounds or unconscious habits. You are responding from awareness. Understanding rearranges your perspective. The very experiences that once frustrated you now appear purposeful. The delays you resented begin to look protective. The emotional triggers that unsettled you reveal themselves as indicators of growth. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to say, "This shaped me for what is next." This is the power of integration. The lesson that formed beneath the surface now becomes part of your foundation. It is no longer something you are trying to remember. It becomes something you naturally apply. Your responses slow down. Your discernment sharpens. Your confidence stabilizes. There is also a release that comes with true understanding. You stop replaying past moments in your mind, searching for alternative outcomes. Regret loosens its grip. Self-criticism softens. You realize that every step, even the missteps, contributed to the strength you now carry. That realization is freeing. Archangel Michael's awareness is guiding you into this freedom. Because clarity is not only about avoiding mistakes, it is about walking forward without carrying unnecessary weight. When you understand the lesson, you stop fighting the past. You extract wisdom from it and move on. The shift also affects how you view opportunities. Before, you may have evaluated them based on excitement or fear. Now you evaluate them based on alignment. Does this honor what I have learned? Does this reflect the boundaries I have established? Does this feel peaceful rather than pressured? These questions become instinctive. You may notice that certain things no longer tempt you the way they once did. Situations that would have drawn you in quickly now feel neutral. That is not indifference. That is maturity. Your standards have evolved. What once seemed necessary now feels optional. What once felt urgent now feels measured. Understanding changes your relationship with time as well. You are less frantic, less hurried. You recognize that what is meant for you does not require desperation. You trust that alignment unfolds with consistency rather than chaos. That trust creates calm. The shift is also visible in your emotional landscape. The same circumstances that once triggered anxiety now invite reflection. The same silence that once felt threatening now feels spacious. The same delay that once felt personal now feels strategic. This emotional stability is evidence that the lesson has taken root. And when the lesson takes root, your direction adjusts naturally. You do not need dramatic announcements or external confirmation. Your internal compass has recalibrated. You sense when something aligns and when it does not. You move accordingly. Archangel Michael's role in this shift is illumination. Light does not force you to walk. It simply shows you where to step. Now that you can see clearly, your steps become intentional. You are not stumbling through uncertainty. You are navigating with awareness. There is also a newfound gratitude emerging within you. Gratitude for the very experiences that once felt inconvenient. Gratitude for the repetition that strengthened your discernment. Gratitude for the emotional confusion that led to clarity. When gratitude replaces resentment, transformation is complete. This shift does not mean challenges disappear entirely. It means challenges no longer destabilize you. You approach them differently. You observe before reacting. You evaluate before committing. You respond rather than impulsively defend. A difference changes outcomes. Perhaps the most profound aspect of this shift is peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on perfect circumstances, but the steady peace that comes from alignment. You know you have learned. You know you have grown. You know you are prepared to move ahead consciously. As you stand in this new understanding, recognize that you have crossed an invisible threshold. You are no longer simply aware of the lesson, you embody it. And embodiment is what prepares you for the next dimension of your journey. In the next part, you will see how this understanding connects to divine protection over your next step, how awareness itself becomes a shield as you move forward. As understanding settles within you and the shift becomes steady, there is another truth you must embrace. Awareness itself is a form of protection. Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences not only to prepare you, but to guard what comes next. Protection does not always look like barriers blocking your way. Sometimes it looks like clarity guiding your steps. You may have once imagined protection as something dramatic, obvious obstacles removed, visible threats eliminated, circumstances rearranged instantly. But the most powerful protection often happens quietly. It is the inner restraint that keeps you from making a premature decision. It is the subtle unease that prevents you from agreeing too quickly. It is the peace that confirms when something is right. That is divine covering in action. Now that you have seen the pattern, felt the emotional refinement, and integrated the lesson, you are stepping forward differently. And because you are moving with awareness, you are shielded from repeating what once drained you. Protection has shifted from external intervention to internal discernment. Archangel Michael's presence represents strategic defense. Not defense rooted in fear, but defense rooted in wisdom. When you are aware, you notice red flags earlier. You sense misalignment sooner. You recognize pressure for what it is. That early recognition prevents deeper entanglement. Consider how many past complications could have been avoided if clarity had come sooner. How many emotional wounds could have been less severe if you had paused before committing. Now, that pause exists within you naturally. That is protection formed through experience. There is also a covering over your boundaries. Because you have grown, you are less likely to tolerate what disrupts your peace. This does not mean you are hardened. It means you are discerning. You understand that protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary for sustainable growth. Divine protection also operates through timing. When something is truly aligned for your next season, it will not require you to betray what you have learned. It will not demand that you silence your intuition. It will not rush you beyond wisdom. Alignment and protection move together. You may notice that certain opportunities now dissolve quickly when they are not right. Conversations that once would have prolonged confusion now clarify themselves faster. This is not coincidence. It is the result of your sharpened awareness interacting with divine guidance. Protection does not eliminate free will. You still have choices. But now, your choices are informed. You are not navigating blindly. The lesson forming through recent experiences has equipped you with filters. And filters prevent contamination of your next chapter. There may still be moments when uncertainty appears. That is natural. But uncertainty no longer paralyzes you. You evaluate it. You test it against the wisdom you have gained. You ask whether it aligns with the boundaries you established. That evaluation process is a shield. Archangel Michael's awareness also reminds you that you are not alone in your decisions. Even when you feel isolated in your reflection, there is guidance surrounding you. Protection sometimes manifests as a delay that frustrates you temporarily but spares you long-term regret. It may appear as a conversation that reveals hidden motives just in time. It may show up as a sudden clarity that shifts your direction before commitment is finalized. Trust that what is meant for you will cooperate with your discernment. It will not crumble because you took time to evaluate. It will not vanish because you required alignment. What dissolves under scrutiny was never secure to begin with. Divine protection also strengthens your confidence. When you know you are acting from awareness rather than impulse, fear decreases. You no longer second-guess every step. You trust the integration of your lesson. That trust stabilizes your movement forward. You may even sense a calm boldness emerging. Not reckless boldness, but grounded courage. The courage to say yes without anxiety. The courage to say no without guilt. The courage to wait without panic. That courage is a sign that protection and understanding are working together. As you prepare to move into your next season, remember this. You are covered by clarity. You are shielded by discernment. You are guided by lessons that have already proven their value. The confusion that once clouded your direction has transformed into awareness that guards it. Archangel Michael brings awareness not to control your journey, but to ensure it unfolds with wisdom. You are stepping forward with eyes open, with boundaries defined, with emotional stability restored. That combination is powerful. The next and final part will seal this message with assurance and upliftment, reminding you that your path ahead is not only protected, but purposeful. You have walked through awareness. You have faced the pattern. You have felt the emotional refinement. You have stood at the crossroad. You have recognized the warning within the clarity. And now you stand at the threshold of movement, not confused, not rushed, not pressured, but aligned. Archangel Michael brings awareness to a lesson forming through recent experiences. This message may bring clarity. Open and listen before moving ahead. And now you understand why those words mattered so deeply. The lesson was never meant to delay your destiny. It was meant to protect it. It was not sent to burden you, but to build you. Every repeated situation, every emotional trigger, every pause that frustrated you was shaping discernment within you. What once felt like inconvenience was actually preparation. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it. You came with questions. You may have carried doubt. You may have felt urgency pulling you forward. But now there is steadiness. Now there is reflection. And now there is a quiet confidence rooted in awareness. Moving forward with open eyes means you do not deny what you have learned. It means you carry the lesson as part of your foundation. It means you trust your discernment instead of silencing it. It means you value peace over pressure. You are no longer seeking clarity from external noise. You have allowed it to form internally. That is maturity. That is growth. That is alignment. Archangel Michael's awareness has not been about control, it has been about illumination. Light hath been cast over recent experiences so you could see their purpose. And now that you see, you are empowered. Empowered to choose differently. Empowered to respond wisely. Empowered to step forward without repeating cycles that no longer serve you. There may still be unknowns ahead. There may still be moments that require courage. But you are not stepping into the future blindly. You are stepping into it equipped. Equipped with discernment. Equipped with emotional stability. Equipped with boundaries that protect your peace. Remember this. The clarity you receive is evidence that you are guided. The refinement you endured is proof that you are valued. The awareness you now carry is confirmation that you are ready. As you move ahead, do so gently, but confidently. There is no need to rush. What is aligned will remain aligned. What is appointed will not be lost because you chose wisdom. Trust that divine timing works in harmony with your discernment. If doubt attempts to resurface, revisit what you have learned. If pressure tries to rush you, return to peace. If old patterns whisper for attention, remember how far you have come. You are not the same person who first encountered those cycles. You have grown beyond them. This is your closing revelation. The lesson forming through recent experiences was not an interruption. It was an initiation into greater awareness, greater stability, greater alignment. And now, you move forward not as someone confused by repetition, but as someone refined by it. Type "I move forward" in clarity in the comments if you are stepping into your next season with open eyes. Blessing code 909 is now activated over your path, your decisions, and your discernment. Let this declaration seal your growth. Walk ahead knowing you are covered by awareness. Walk ahead knowing you are strengthened by refinement. Walk ahead knowing that clarity is not a one-time gift. It is a lifestyle you have chosen. And now, go forward with peace. As this message comes to completion, understand that the clarity protecting you today can protect countless others tomorrow. When you sow into this mission, you are releasing light into places where confusion still reigns. The Lord declares that those who water others will themselves be watered. This is a living promise, active right now. When you give through Super Thanks, become a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen, you are participating in a harvest of awakened souls. I am calling you to act in faith, not hesitation. Let your giving become a prophetic seal over the lesson you have received. As you release your seed, may divine protection increase over your household, and may clarity multiply in every area of your life. Step forward and sow boldly. Your journey continues, but now it continues in awareness.